Hello, welcome to the CAPS training. In this tutorial, we'll learn how to apply for a procurement that has been published by CSC. Please keep in mind that the question and scenarios that we're going to be using in today's tutorial are all mock scenarios and questions and do not relate to any live procurements that are published or may be published in the future by CSC. We are going to be using a few acronyms throughout this video. CAPS stands for the Contracts Administration and Procurement System. CSC stands for the Children's Services Council of Broward County. Anytime you hear RFP, RFQ, RFA, or RLI, these stand for a request for proposals, qualifications, applications, letters of interest, etc. The EIN or the SunBiz number stands for the Employer Identification Number, and the AFF stands for the application for funding or the actual proposal that you will be submitting to CSC in order to get CSC funding or to be considered to get CSC funding. Anytime there is a procurement that is published by CSC, it will be available on www.cscbroward.org on the main page. If you scroll down, all announcements for our websites are listed at the bottom of the page. You can also find a procurement to apply for by going to the Providers tab on top and clicking on Funding Opportunities. When you click on the Funding Opportunities tab, you will be directed to the Find RFP, RFQ Opportunities link. If you click on this link, any live procurements that may be published by CSC are all listed on this page. So currently there are no funding opportunities that are listed. However, for this tutorial, we have staged a mock procurement. So you would click on a link that leads you to the mock procurement, and it would take you to a page that looks like this. So for this case, we will be working with the CAPS Training 2.0 version. You'll notice that there's a brief description that has been provided by CSC, which tells you briefly what this procurement is, when it's published, and when it expires. So in this case, it was published on July 14th and it expires on July 31st. If you click on the hyperlink of the CAPS Training 2.0, it will direct you to a page that gives you a brief explanation of what this procurement is. On the top, you'll be able to see the title of the procurement. You will also see a ribbon which tells you what department it's associated with, what is the type of the procurement, the date that was published, the due date, the time remaining for you to complete the proposal or the application, and when it expires. At the bottom left, you'll see a timeline that's associated with this procurement. These are the dates that are critical and are attached to your procurement timeline. We've put some mock dates in here. For example, the date advertised was July 14th, the application deadline. So this is the deadline by which you need to have your proposal completed and submitted to CSC. The period of submission of written questions, in this case, you will see it's a period of 3 days. Any attachments are posted on the right. So your full procurement document would be posted here. Any other attachments such as the rating tool or any exhibits would also be posted under the attachments on the right hand side. To jump back to the timeline, you'll notice that there's a period of submission of written questions. This is related to the Ask a Question link at the top here. You can ask any procurement related questions through this Ask a Question link, which will only be available to you between the dates that are specified in the period of submission of written questions. This pod would automatically disappear outside the timeline that is posted under the Timeline tab. If you click on Ask a Question, you'll notice that a pop-up box comes up, and this is where you can submit your question to CSC by clicking on the Submit Question link. You can access any of the attachments simply by clicking on the RFQ on the link to the Attachments tab on the right hand side. So I'm going to go ahead and click to see the full procurement document. Once you click on it, you'll notice that the system has prompted me to log in. You will need an access point to access any of the documents that are posted by CSC. If you are already an existing user, just put in your credentials and log in. But if you need To register as a user, just put in your first name, last name, and email address, and you'll be able to register that way by confirming your email address and then getting entry into the system. So for this case, we're going to use a test user and log in. Once you log in, you will see that I am back on the same page, with the exception of on the top right, you will see that my credentials have popped up. So in this case, CSC user 2 is my first name and last name. So we'll try accessing one of the attachments again by simply clicking on the link. So once you click on the link, you'll notice that now you have accessed the resource that was posted on the main page. You are able to download the file or simply view it in the screen. If you download the file, it will be saved on your local machine in your downloads folder. So we'll go in and go back to that first page. You'll notice that you have two ways to start an application. On the top left where it says start a new application, or on the right where there's a blue button that says start a new application. So I'm going to go ahead and click on a start a new application. So if you notice, as soon as I click on start a new application, it brings you to a page where it asks you to complete your contact information and organization information. Had you not been logged into the system, you would have been prompted to either create an account or put in your credentials to access the system. So let's go in and confirm that your contact information is correct, whether you're an individual or an agency, and if your organization information is correct also. If you're a new user or if you've had a change in agency, you can refer to our database of agency under the organizations tab. If your agency is not listed, you can click on organization not listed, and a pop-up box asking you to complete the EIN number of your organization will come up. That box is related to Sunbiz, and once you put in the EIN number, Sunbiz will automatically populate your agency information in this box. When you scroll down, there's an application pod which asks you to give a name for this particular application. This is for your reference. If CSC has multiple solicitations or RFPs out, and if you're applying for more than one, this will help you identify which proposal or application is what under your view. So we're going to call this test for now and proceed. Under the authorized users, you have the ability to add a user that you would like to add on the application. You would need to put in their first name, last name, and also their email for that person to be notified that you have added them as an authorized user on that particular application. So for now, we will not add anyone and click on proceed. So once you click on proceed, you'll land on a page that basically shows you all the sections that need to be completed for you to apply for this procurement to CSC. So you'll notice that the type of procurement is listed, your organization name will be listed, the due date of the proposal will be listed, and the time remaining. On the right hand side, you'll notice all the sections with a modify button that need to be completed by you as an agency to be considered for funding. If you click on the details tab, you will notice that you see a larger view. This is a summary of all the questions that are asked as a part of this application. Had you already input responses, you would notice them on this page as well. If you scroll down, you will see the solicitation attachments. These are all the files that you saw on the first main page that which prompted you to either log in, or if you're already logged in, to access these files. The authorized agency users is another way that you can add an authorized user to your application. The process would be the same that was discussed when we were on the main page completing your contact information. All you would need to do is click on this pencil edit button and go in, and if you had any more entries, you can add them this way. For now, we're going to go ahead and cancel it, and we'll go back into the details view. The ask a question pod also exists on this page, but again, it would expire if you are outside of the timeline for the ask a question period. If you want to print your application, you can do so by just clicking on print. If you want to look at the solicitation information page that you saw at the beginning before we started to apply, you can simply do so by clicking on the View Solicitation tab, and it brings you to the main page. When you do this, you will notice that you currently have an application under My Applications tab that is in progress. This is because we started a new application for this particular procurement. So going back to this section, the files pod is currently empty. This will list all the files that are uploaded by you as an agency as you work along in this application. You can modify your application by either clicking on modify on the ribbon top left, or individually going into the section and clicking on modify. You will notice that as you complete your application for funding, the 0% will start moving along and will eventually go to 100%, which will tell you that you've completed all the sections and your application is ready to be finally submitted to CSC by clicking on a big green button that we'll see in the future. So let's go ahead and modify the first section, which is called Forms. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Modify. Here it is asking you to provide two pieces of information as an upload feature, the W-9 and the agency application information. You know that this is an upload feature because it's asking you to choose a file from your laptop, tablet, or personal machine. So I'm gonna go ahead and just put a test file in this case, and I'm gonna attach it right here. I'm gonna do the same for the agency applicant information and attach the test file in here. You'll notice that you'll see that both these files have been attached. So now I'm going to go ahead and do Save and Submit section. As soon as I do the Save and Submit section, you'll notice that the red X has turned into a green check mark. You are able to modify this up until the deadline. So in this case, the deadline is July 31st, and that deadline applies to all the sections. You can verify that by looking under each section and noticing the deadline date. However, if you submit it, the date will turn into a submitted on date. Keep in mind that you have the ability to submit to modify any of these sections up until the deadline date. So you'll notice that the application is saying that it's been 25% completed. If you were to fill all 4 sections out, it would go up to 100%, at which point it would be ready to be finally submitted to CSC. But if you have not done the final submit to CSC, you've completed all these sections on the right, all these sections have turned into a green check mark, you still have the ability to go in and modify the section by simply just clicking on modify. We'll get into that more once we complete some of the sections listed below. So let's go ahead and go into the agency details section number 1. I'm going to click on modify. You'll notice that the first question is a question and answer box where the answer is being asked to be typed out. So you'll notice that the question actually has a word limit of 900 words. I'm going to start typing my answer in. So you'll notice that we have a word counter. So it's letting you know that you've used 2 words and you have 898 words remaining. If you try to type beyond 900 words, the system will automatically cut you off. If you are copy pasting a response, make sure that you clear it of any formatting. It just looks more clean when you paste it. And when you paste it, if your answer is beyond 900 words, the system will automatically cut it off at 900 words. So you want to be very mindful of the word limit, as there's no room for it to go beyond the word limit. The next question is a yes or no question. Depending on how you answer, you're able, you may see additional questions pop up. So in this case, I'm going to answer it as yes. As soon as I click yes, you'll notice that another comment box has popped up, which is asking you for additional information. Had I clicked on no, it would have ended the process right there. and I could have either saved it for later or save and submitted this section. We also want to highlight that if you're working on a section and if you have to jump on something else and your page times out, there is an autosave feature that the system has, so none of your answers would be lost. They would be saved up until the point that you were working on it for. The section would not have a green check mark. It would still have a red X, which is basically telling you that there's information pending in that section for you to go back in, verify everything, and submit it. So for now, I'm going to just show you what happens if I just save this for later. Let's say I'm just saving it. I haven't worked on the second question. So I just saved it. So what it did was it left the agency detail section number 1 as a red X, and it didn't turn into a green check mark. So let's go back in and click on modify. And now let's say you're ready to save and submit the section. So I'm going to just go ahead and click on save and submit. And you'll notice that it's turned into a green check mark. So let's go into the agency detail section 2 now and modify it. So this is actually a chart. So it's asking you if you've received any funding in the past 3 years. And a chart for you has been provided for you. For you to complete this chart, you would need to click on new entry and answer the questions that are asked. And I'm just going to do test responses in here. And save my entry. So as soon as I do save entry, the responses that I typed in have now showed up in a chart format. If you did make an error in here, simply click on your entry, go back in, and you can modify it in the space that you were typing it in. I'm going to cancel this and I'm going to add another entry. So I'm just going to simply click on new entry again and follow the same process. And save my entry. As soon as you do that, you'll see that now you have 2 entries. When you're ready to submit this section, just simply click on submit, which will take you to the last section, which is the budget section. So let's go in and click on modify in the budget section. And you'll notice here that this question is asking you to submit your budget file. So anytime you see a hyperlink in a question, it's basically telling you that we've provided additional information for you to view. So here, a sample program budget template has been provided for you. So you would simply just click on it. What it does is it brings up the file that we've provided for you to look at. You can download and print it and fill it out and submit it back if that's what the question is asking you to do. Or if it's just a reference file, it's something for you to look at and refer to while you're putting your response in. So for now, I'm just gonna click and go back into the question itself, and you will notice that it's an upload file again. Please be mindful again as to what you're submitting for each section. I'm going to click on choose file. As soon as I click on choose file, I'm going to select what I'm submitting. So I'm going to go ahead and submit my budget form, and then I'm going to save and submit this question. So you'll notice that my application is now 100% completed. I have green check marks next to each section, and I have a big green button on the top which says submit application to CSC. What you want to take a moment now and do is review your application. You can be under the view application tab, which we saw earlier. You'll notice that all the files that you've attached, and I happen to attach the test document twice, so you'll notice that it's here twice. Any answers that you provided have also shown up in the view application. Your chart has shown up. The file that you provided, the budget form, has also shown up. Additionally, on the right hand side, you'll notice under the files pod, all the files that were uploaded by you are now showing up in this pod. If you scroll up and realize that if you've made an error or want to modify something, you can simply do so by clicking on the modify button. So I'm going to go back and edit my answer and click on save and submit the section. So it allows you to modify it up until the deadline date of what's listed on that particular procurement. So in here, it's July 31st. So considering everything is completed, you are ready to submit your final application to CSC. And once you do that, you will not be able to modify any of the sections under your AFF or for your proposal. I do want you to see that currently your application is sitting under the status of in progress, and you will notice that as soon as you submit, that status will change. So let's go ahead and submit that final application to CSC. So once you do that, it will again give you a prompt that you will not be able to make any modifications. Are you sure you want to submit your application? I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And now you will notice that my application status has changed to submitted. I no longer have access to the modify buttons or the modify on the top ribbon. And the application has been submitted to CSC for review. This concludes our training. Thank you.